we still have a mission to do. And that's what Task Force Pineapple was about, and I came on board about 3 or 4 days after they had started operations to try and help get out an interpreter that was a friend of mine. I think the one thing that I've really thought a lot about is, what does it mean to be an American? We're really divided right now as a nation, but what gives me hope is that a lot of people are upset about this. They're on the right and the left. They're saying that this is wrong, that this isn't who we are. And I would really think long and hard about that. I think right now we're at a point in our country where all we want to do is focus on our differences, when, as terrible of what's happened in Afghanistan, it's brought us together. And that's what we need to focus on as a country.
Welcome to The Right to Inspire. Journalist and host Sarah Strackhouse has worked at Fox News, the CW, CBS, NBC, and Time Warner cable stations across the country for more than 10 years, and is now focused on telling inspiring stories of those dedicated to making change. She's driving the message home that ultimately you have the right, the freedom, and the power to be the change you want to see in the world. You have the right to inspire.
Hey everyone, thanks so much for joining us for The Right to Inspire, because you have the right, the freedom, and the power to be the change you want to see in the world. I'm so honored to be joined by former Navy SEAL, author, speaker, Lieutenant Jason Redman. Lieutenant, thank you so much for joining us.
Sarah, honored to be here. Thanks for having me.
Well, you have such an impressive background. I mean, you joined the Navy in '92, went through BUDS training, and it's kind of funny how you explain that in '95, you enjoyed your time on a beach with really nice instructors. I mean, reading the irony there was super funny. I know then you did 3 deployments in South America, doing counter-drug missions, became an instructor upon your return, selected for the Seaman to Admiral program. And then I know in '04 you became a Naval SEAL officer. You were deployed to Afghanistan in '05, and then in '07 went to Iraq doing more than 40 direct action missions. There's so much more in there in your bio, and it's so impressive. And I want you to talk a little bit about kind of your background, and especially what happened over when you were in Iraq.
Yeah, it's been an amazing career. It's been an amazing life. I often say I feel like I've lived 2 lifetimes already. And for whatever reason, God gave me a second chance that night in Iraq. So trying to make the most of it. It was a great career. I mean, the military and the SEAL teams, specifically our special operations community, is a great environment. I mean, they're just incredibly talented, incredibly intelligent individuals who really, most of them could do anything. And it was just a neat place to really, in some aspects, to grow up, to learn how to be a leader, to learn how to work, deal with adversity. Because I was so young. I mean, I came in when I was 17 and I retired when I was 38. So pretty
Wow.
amazing path.
Yeah.
Um,
And I know you have amazing insight as to what's going on right now in Afghanistan. But first, like I said, I kind of wanted you to talk a little bit about your past. And then, in Iraq, I know that you were actually, shot multiple times. Can you tell us a little bit about what happened over there?
Yeah, Iraq was a really volatile place, and throughout the war, but definitely '06, '07, we were moving into what was called the Anbar Awakening. And it was a period of time that the Iraqis, the local tribal leaders, the sheikhs, basically said, "Hey, we've had enough. Al Qaeda is actually doing more damage to our country than anybody else." So they actually started to work with us, Americans, and the coalition forces, where before I think it had definitely been a cold relationship at best. And that enabled us over the '06, '07 time period to really ramp up operations and go after, mid-level and senior leaders within Al Qaeda and the insurgency. I got to Iraq in the spring of 2007, and really a lot of combat missions going after mid-level and high-level Al Qaeda and insurgent leaders. Right before going home, literally 1 week before going home, my team and I walked into a really well-executed Al Qaeda ambush, and myself and several team members were all shot up by machine gun fire. I myself was hit 8 times between the body and body armor, including 2 rounds in the left elbow, and I took a round to the face. My teammates did an amazing job fighting back and to save me. And we also ended up calling in what we call fire support missions from an Air Force AC-130 gunship. And the closest fire mission in the entire Iraq war, we actually called rounds right onto our position, which is called extreme danger close. But my team leader did a great job coordinating this. The gunship did an amazing job. And thankfully, we all made it out alive. But that obviously started a whole new journey for me of getting put back together. 40 surgeries over a 4-year period to rebuild my face, to rebuild my arm, and to continue to mentally, physically, and emotionally heal and drive forward.
I was going to say, obviously, physically, I mean, that must have been excruciating kind of going through all of that, but mentally, emotionally, I mean, what was going through your head?
It was tough. And a lot of what I teach now to others in my speaking and coaching comes from a lot of the lessons that I learned. I mean, many of the lessons I learned come from my military career. But the interesting thing, I will admit, in the beginning, it was overwhelming. Like so many people out there, when we get hit by what I call life ambushes, these instant, or sometimes these build up to an explosion, if you will, a life explosion. I tell people all the time, so many people are like, oh my gosh, man, you got shot up in this gunfight and bombs on the battlefield. I can't even relate to that. And I said, yeah, you think that, but the reality is we all get hit by the bullets and bombs of life. And believe it or not, the human body, when we go into fight or flight, it doesn't go, oh my God, it's a machine gun ambush. It just goes, this is a crisis situation,
Right.
when stress and adrenaline and all these things start pumping through us. So it is the same. And when we're overwhelmed, and I was in the beginning laying in that hospital bed, I remember thinking to myself, oh my God, here I was at the height of my career. I was getting ready to screen for the next level SEAL team. And now I'm laying in a bed and they're telling me, we're going to possibly have to amputate your arm. I remember thinking to myself, I'm going to be forever disfigured. I'm going to be forever disabled. My military career is over. And those are the times where we just focus on that negativity. I call that point the X. In the military, we also call the X the point of attack. And so many people get overwhelmed on that point. And I had been taught in my military career, in my SEAL career, you have to get off the X as quickly as possible. And life is no different. And when I was laying in that bed, I told myself, dude, you have to get off the X. And the most powerful thing you have as a human is you have a choice. Nobody forces you to sit there and be a victim and feel sorry for yourself and stay on that X. You have the power to get off the X and drive forward. It's hard. And oftentimes it's painful. We don't want to do it. But I did. And I said, okay, well, I am going to drive forward. I'm going to overcome. And that's how this whole thing launched from there. That's how the sign on my hospital door came about in that moment.
I was just going to ask you about that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you basically had said that you don't want pity, and it kind of went national, and everyone was, just loving this sign. What did you want people to see from that sign?
The sign is an example. When I speak for companies, I talk about that sign as a perfect example of choice, choosing positivity over negativity. And what's amazing about when we do that, you never know the ripple effects of how that's going to impact that choice we make for ourselves, but we also never know who else it's going to impact. And that's what happened there. So in that situation, I was still struggling. And I had some people come into the room, and they were, a military hospital in wartime environment is a really overwhelming place to be. You're seeing a lot of people that are horrifically injured, burned, blown up, missing limbs. And they were overwhelmed. And they said, what a tragedy. These young men and women are never going to be the same. They're never going to be able to go out and be successful. And I remember when they left, thinking to myself, is that me? Is that who I am? Am I this victim that will never be able to be successful again? And I was like, no, that's not me. And not only that, I don't want anybody else to feel that way in my room. And that's how the sign came to be. And I asked my wife for a piece of paper, and I wrote, attention to all who enter here. If you're coming in this room with sadness or sorrow, don't bother. The wounds that I received, I got in a job that I love, doing it for people that I love, defending the freedom of a country that I deeply love. I will make full recovery. What is full? That's the absolute utmost physically. I have the ability to recover. And then I'm going to push that about 20% further through sheer mental tenacity. This room you're about to enter is a room of fun, optimism, and intense rapid regrowth. And we signed it, the management. And it went viral. It went everywhere. It earned me an invitation to the White House to meet President Bush. It's been written about in multiple books. But at the end of the day, that's the power of choice. And everybody out there has that choice. Nobody forces you to stay on the X. You have the choice to get up and drive forward, but just recognize it's hard. And it was hard for me too.
Of course, and especially those of us who haven't served or haven't gone through something like that, it's so difficult to kind of understand what you go through. But I know that you're out there, speaking and helping, thousands of other veterans recover and kind of get that next mental step forward. And you're also, I know, coaching, talking about leadership. So I really wanted to ask you, what do you think about the leadership in our country right now, especially as it pertains to Afghanistan and Kabul?
I have a lot of thoughts on that. The reality is I'm going to stay away from politics for right now, only because we still have a mission to do. And that's what Task Force Pineapple was about. And I came on board about 3 or 4 days after they had started operations to try and help get out an interpreter that was a friend of mine. So at the end of the day, I'm not here to point fingers right now. This really isn't about the left or the right. It is about honoring the promise that our government made to both American citizens and to the amazing Afghan allies, these heroes that we worked alongside, that we provided. They've been vetted. I've had some people say, well, how do you know they're good people and we're not bringing terrorists over? And I'm like, because they have what's called a special immigrant visa. They worked alongside us, many for years, even decades, and they've been vetted, and they were promised that they were going to be have safety for them and their families. And we haven't done that. So for right now, Task Force Pineapple, we want to work with the U.S. government. We want to work with the Department of State to try and help get all these remaining thousands of our Afghan allies out.
So tell us a little bit about more Task Force Pineapple and exactly what you're going through, what you're doing, what you're trying to accomplish there. And I know you just kind of touched on that.
Yeah, so Task Force Pineapple was started by Lieutenant Colonel Scott Mann. He's a retired Green Beret. And it started with one interpreter, his interpreter, and he was friends with James Meek, who is a reporter who had embedded multiple times. And James also was friends with this interpreter. So they were talking about how do they get this individual out. And Scott started reaching out to friends within the special operations and intel community and said, hey, how can we do this? And they started talking about, well, what did we do overseas? Well, we had networks, we had people we knew, and they started building that. They started building contacts with their Afghan allies and with individuals they had on the ground to create. Scott envisioned it like what Harriet Tubman had done, kind of like the Underground Railroad, but in this case, it was a virtual Underground Railroad. And when they maneuvered their interpreter to the gates of Karzai International Airport, the code word for him to come through the gate with the contact that was there was pineapple. And that's how it became Task Force Pineapple, and the mechanism became Pineapple Express. And we now, since that time, have successfully moved over 1,000 Americans, Afghan veterans, interpreters, and numerous VIPs. So it's been pretty incredible. We're just a citizen liaison network. That's what we're calling ourselves. Just a group of ex-special operations and intelligence operatives, and our Afghan allies on the ground that are all working together. And right now we're standing by. We have a lot of people that are stuck, and we want to continue to work with the Department of State and our government to honor that promise and get these remaining people out.
Yeah. Well, and I know you served over in Afghanistan as well, so you kind of, the lay of the land a little bit. I was speaking with someone last week who said that right now kind of the feeling is some people who are coming home, what was this all for? We pulled out, the Taliban is back in, they're kind of struggling mentally. What are your thoughts on that? And what would you say to someone who is struggling?
I don't agree with the decision with the deal that was made for the Taliban. I mean, that's tough for me to see this organization that we fought against, that Taliban's directly responsible for the deaths of quite a few of my friends. So I do struggle with that. I will say this, that to say it was all for nothing, it just isn't true. I mean, there's so many incredible Afghans who got a taste of freedom and who believe in freedom. I mean, these individuals who we fought alongside that we're trying to bring back, they believe in freedom. They would love to see a free Afghanistan. Currently, as we speak, the Northern Alliance has taken back Panjshir up in northern Afghanistan, and they are bringing the fight to the Taliban. So there are people there who still believe in a free Afghanistan. And as a veteran, we help as an Afghan veteran, we help facilitate that. So I will say, don't think that it was in vain. This story has not finished. And we planted the seeds, for hopefully a free Afghanistan in the future. I'd like to think that the Taliban is going to be a benevolent government. I don't, I don't believe that. They're a pretty violent organization, and we're already seeing instances or reports of the level of violence they're willing to take to people. But I think it was worth it. I think as a military member of the United States of America, so often in the history of this country, we have gone out and fought for the freedom and those who are oppressed and repressed. And we did that, and we're continuing to do that. So as an Afghan veteran, hold your head high and know we made a difference. I believe it. And I think, there's still opportunities to, work with our government, work with the Department of State, and finish this story to get the rest of the amazing Afghan allies, the Afghan heroes that work with us out.
That's amazing, and that's so inspirational for people who, might be losing hope or just are back and are just trying to find their way. So thank you, kind of, for weighing in on that. I want you to talk about what next. What's coming now, or what do you think should be happening now? What are the next steps for our country over the next few weeks, over the next month, et cetera?
Well, so the focus of Task Force Pineapple right now is we're focused on keeping our people safe inside Afghanistan. Unfortunately, the borders are closed, and there are no flights going in and out yet. So we are focused on keeping our people safe in a safe location, shelter, food, clothing, medical necessities, and then standing by to work with the Department of Defense and the Department of State to get these individuals out. And that's going to take a little bit of time. I mean, it's, weeks. And the reality is months. I mean, with the help of the government, I mean, there's a lot of people. I mean, there's 80,000 special immigrant visa holders at least still in Afghanistan, and remaining 100 or so or 200 American citizens. So that's what we're hoping for. It will take time, depending on what actions our government takes to try and get these people out.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's definitely a high number, and I know you're doing all you can, and that's amazing being part of that organization. Is there anything that the general public can do to help? Can send supplies, send help? Anything that the normal person, anyone watching this, can do?
Yeah, there's a lot of different groups. OperationRecovery.org was stood up specifically to help with get people out of Afghanistan, and not only get them out of Afghanistan. I mean, one of the things that Task Force Pineapple is focused on, it's not just on the rescue, it's on the recovery to move them. Then it's on resettlement and reintegration back here. I mean, we want to know that these individuals have the opportunity for a good life. I mean, we don't just want to get them someplace in the world or here in the United States and they get dumped and they're just trying to figure out how to make a living. They have a really unique, proven skill set. So many of them understand the way the military works, and they are, multilingual, a lot of them. And we think that there's a great opportunity for them to continue that service with our military or government organization. So we would like to see that. And so that's one way. So operationrecovery.org, they can do that. You also have the Semper Fi Fund has stood up an Afghan Interpreters Welcome Fund. The Travis Manion Foundation is helping to with these Afghani people that have come here to resettle them. So those are several different groups. And then the biggest thing we really could use help with is, reach out to your political leaders, reach out to your congressmen, reach out to your senators and say, hey, we need to do the right thing here. We promised them that we were going to bring them home and make them safe, regardless of your beliefs of what's going on in Afghanistan. Unfortunately, I don't think we can undo that, but we can still honor the promise and, bring these people home.
Well, I certainly hope so. Lieutenant Redman, if there's anything, I want you to add kind of one more thing. If someone's listening to this conversation and kind of they missed the whole part, and you want them to take one thing away, what would it be?
I think the one thing that I've really thought a lot about is, what does it mean to be an American? We're really divided right now as a nation, but what gives me hope is that a lot of people are upset about this. They're on the right and the left. they're saying that this is wrong, that this isn't who we are. And I would really think long and hard about that. I think right now we're at a point in our country where all we want to do is focus on our differences, when as terrible of what's happened in Afghanistan, it's brought us together. And that's what we need to focus on as a country. What makes us unique? What makes us American? And to me, what makes us American is that, we should and do take care of each other, and we honor our word. So I think that's what's important. And I think making a difference to finish this story for Afghanistan in a positive manner is a big thing. And I think all Americans can play a part in that.
Absolutely. I love that. There's a quote that I was listening to that you said, quit your squawking, stop with the division, let's move this country forward. And it kind of reminds me of what you just said there. And I absolutely love that. Moving the country forward together as a team. And that's definitely what our country needs right now. If people want to find out more about you, want to hire you as a coach, want to hear you speak, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, jasonredman.com is my speaking site and coaching. You can get my books. We have some online courses. So
amazing. Well, thank you so much. And thank you so much for your years of service and what you're still doing for this country. So thank you.
Sarah, my honor. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Well, thanks everyone so much for joining us. Don't forget to follow us on The Right to Inspire, and we'll see you next time.
You have the right to inspire.